இதா
Vidya, your screen is clear. Your PPT is being seen. So we can start. Your screen is clear. I'm able to see your screen. Okay.
Okay.
So we can start. That is, we can start the presentation at 11 o'clock. Okay.
All right. Do you want me to come back in or just stay here?
Just stay. I mean, you can just stay. You can go on mute, and
Okay.
we can start it at 11. Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Annapurni ma'am, could you please unmute yourself and start the presentation?
Sir?
Annapurni ma'am, you can start.
Okay. Good morning. I extend a warm welcome to all of you to the fourth day of the online International Faculty Development Program on Progressing Amidst Hindrance, Turning Adversity into Opportunity, organized by the PG and Research Department of Commerce, Ethiraj College for Women, in association with Miles Education, our academic partner. Yesterday, we had Ms. Roswin Joy, Head, Sustainable Development Goals Center, Assistant Professor, Business Analytical and Economics, Presidency University, Bangalore, who spoke on identifying and addressing the research gap. The session was indeed an informative one. Today, we have with us as resource person, Ms. Vidya Madhubala Rajshekhar, to speak to us on the topic US versus India from an accountant's view. Affectionate welcome to Vidya Madhubala, an alumni of the department and the then president of the college union. We are extremely happy to have you with us. Having completed a BCom degree at Ethiraj College for Women in the year 2008, Vidya Madhubala qualified for the CA Inter in 2010. She went on to obtain her MS in accounting in Texas. She also completed her CPA. Her first experience was with Ernst & Young, Houston, Texas as an audit staff. She then joined MUFG Bank as analyst and was later promoted as credit risk associate, assistant vice president, where till date she manages a portfolio of 30 investment grade oil and gas clients from all subsectors including E&P, midstream, downstream and OFS, in addition to a few commodity finance and agribusiness clients. Vidya has been recognized for her learning agility and the ability to manage multiple industries and deals concurrently. We are proud of you and thank you, Vidya, for being with us today. I also welcome all the participants for this online International Faculty Development Program. Have an informative day. Thank you. Over to Ms. Madhubala.
Well, thank you so much for that great introduction. Is everybody able to hear me?
Yes, your audio is clear, your video is clear. Perfect.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. I hope each and every one of you is staying safe and healthy in these trying times. Thank you for joining me today on this great initiative by Ethiraj College. I'm so proud. I can't tell you how much proud I am. I just love this topic so much. Progressing amidst hindrance. It is the best thing we could actually do during this period to reflect, reorganize, retrospect, and make a little bit of progress, right? Special thanks to Gayatri ma'am for thinking of me and to my weird story, Miss Krishnaveni, to help me identify topics and also to motivate me to actually join this occasion. I would like to start with a brief introduction of myself. The introduction that Ms. Annapurni ma'am gave was amazing, but this is just from my perspective. So like ma'am said, I am an alumni from Ethiraj, graduated in 2008 from the BCom program. And then I moved to US in 2009. Right now, I am working as an AVP, Assistant Vice President in the MUFG Bank. And I live in Sugar Land, Texas. It's a suburb right next to Houston in Texas, United States of America, with my family, with my husband and 2 children. My daughter, she is 6 years old, and my son, Shakti, he is 3 years old. They keep me on my toes. We are usually out and about 5 days a week. We don't even get time to spend family quality time usually, but this quarantine has helped us recognize different shades of everyone, positive and negative. It's been interesting, that's all I can say. I'm a classical dancer. I I'm so fortunate that I have been able to continue to dance even after leaving India, because Houston is very diverse. You can do almost everything that you do in India. There are lots of Indians and there are lots of temples. Everything that's there in India is usually in Houston too. So I'm so fortunate at that. Just recently, I also started my own dance classes for a small group of kids just to pass on the legacy. So that's about me. So when I first started thinking about what could I talk about that could add value for this amazingly set up panel, as in what could I share with the teachers and professors that know so much more than me, that are wealth of knowledge, I figured why not talk about what I have personally experienced in the past 12 to 15 years, share about what I went through in each stages of my career progression up until today, especially highlight similarities and differences in US and India. I thought this could be an interesting and useful topic because when I came here in 2009, I realized that not a lot of people have come to USA from India to establish an accounting career. A lot of engineers have done that. They have like a set program, but accountants usually don't. So I mean, I would have loved to have some resource like this to help me understand the difference, make the right moves. But so hopefully this is helpful for students who are currently in our BCom or other bachelor programs that aspire to have a career in the USA. So in 2009, I was literally uprooted from Chennai and placed in US, left to figure out the rest for myself. Like I said, I was not able to find a senior or someone in my circle who has already gone through the same struggle, and so I was not able to find solutions and quickly make moves in my career. So this topic, I've split the whole topic into a few subtopics here. I would love for this session to be interactive, so please stop me if you have questions, or you can also hold the questions at the end. It's okay if you have noise or background kids' voices. It's totally okay because I have the same thing, and we keep hearing all those in the meetings, and we just have to accept them as part of our life. The
Yeah,
first
sorry.
topic, yeah.
So the question and answers we'll park it after your presentation. Okay,
All right,
we can,
sure.
yeah,
Whatever
because
works.
that is the audience will be on mute now. So you can finish the presentation and then we can take up the questions. Okay.
Got it. Thank you. So the
Right.
first topic I'm going to talk about is similarities and differences. A big disclaimer, I will be comparing what I personally went through in Etherage College in BCom from 2005 to 2008 versus what I went through in Texas A&M University Masters in Accountancy program from 2013 to 2015. I totally understand and acknowledge that things could have changed. There could have been some convergences in both the methods since then, and some information may be redundant too. The first similarity is that both the programs were very highly competitive. I still remember my HOD in Etheraj mentioning that we were one among several applications chosen to be part of that class, and I was so proud of myself that, oh yeah, I got into this competitive program because I did so well in school. But in reality, every single classmate in Etheraj BCom department was first in their school. Most of them had state ranks, so a big moment of modesty right there. It was very similar for the master's program here as well. The class was very small with just 20 students and are chosen from 700 or 800 applications every year. And then both the universities had a thorough and long admission process, including deep screening of all applicants. For the master's program in US, like any other business-related master's program, I was required to score really high on GMAT exam and TOEFL, standard tests in English and math, which is the first step of screening. If I had scored anything less than 650 out of 800, it would have not even gotten past the computer screening, which itself is hard. Apart from that, I had to get my credentials, that is the BCom mark sheets and the certificate, evaluated from a third-party agency here. because they're from different country, and the university here want to make sure that I have enough credit hours to actually begin my master's program. Finally, both the universities had several top class educators, which was the reason why they were so they had such strong reputation. Some of my professors in master's program had several years of industry experience before they joined the university as teachers, which brought in unique content and techniques, especially when discussing case studies. At this juncture, I have to mention what an inspiration all my professors at the Raj College were, especially, I guess that was the first place I saw women power, like complete institution run for, administered by women. And I don't know what else could show us women power as strong as that. Moving on to differences. Again, I want to make something clear here that I'm not vouching for one or the other method, but simply pointing out the differences that I noticed during my experience in both the universities. Almost every single class of mine in Texas A&M could be auditing, financial accounting, oil and gas accounting, or financial analysis were based on case studies rather than a textbook. So in India, there is a recommended textbook for each course. There is a topic and a lecture that the professor gives us in class, followed by questions that professor teaches us how to do, and then they work with us. But here, there is no specific textbook. There are topics. Usually, the topic is driven from different textbooks, and the professors guide us to those textbooks, like different kinds of textbooks, and then we do our own self-study about that topic at home before the class. We use online resources provided by the university and can check out some books from library as well. And we're expected to spend approximately 3 hours on each topic. And in class the next day or in the next following week, we have a case study that we do with the professor. Usually these case studies are a modified version of real life scenarios. To provide a solid example, in audit class in BCom, we learned about the auditing standards, went chapter by chapter, and then covered the text. But here, we did not do that. We did not go chapter by chapter. What happened was we were asked to research a topic, let's say, about fraud triangle. And then we were given an actual case that the professor had encountered in his auditing career in his accounting firm. And we were asked to solve that case in class. So I would be happy to share like real examples, but that could maybe later. With this method of case studies, students were forced to prepare on their own because we had a lot. The participation points make up a big percentage of our total score. And also they are able to apply the concepts in real life case. So once we hear the facts of the case that the professor gives out during the class, we had to think about, let's say, pressure, the rationalization and opportunity in case of a fraud triangle, of the characters in that case. And then the professor, once we have discussed every part of how and whys of the case, moves on and extends the topic further into what could have been done, like what kind of controls that the company could have had in place in order to prevent fraud. So it was kind of flowing, the thought was flowing, and we could understand why, what is happening and why we need controls and what exactly helps avoid certain kind of fraudulent activities in a company. So apart from this, every class, depending on what is going on, we would discuss Wall Street Journal articles and other current events to, again, draw a line between education and practical applications. The next difference is that the main difference, this is important, I feel like Indian education is all about making sure we have strong fundamentals by way of repetition, having a horizontal coverage of the course material, like going section by section, chapter by chapter, making sure the text is covered, being exhaustive about what needs to be lectured, what needs to be tested also. While this is not the case in US, here they take topics here and there, like I mentioned earlier, and then deep dive into it. It's more like a vertical coverage, I would say, as much as they can, and do not focus on covering a lot of different topics. So one person could be really strong in one topic, might not necessarily have a full understanding of the entire system. While this method might work perfectly in case of master's program, where the student is expected to have strong fundamentals, it does not really work 100% for bachelors. And I have personally seen bachelor graduates from US, from the same university, sometimes struggle with fundamentals when they start their master's courses. For example, in India, we had, I remember we had a couple of chapters dedicated to mergers and acquisitions, where we learned every single journal entry from the acquirers and the acquirees' point of view. But here, M&A is probably one of the topics in accounting course, and usually professors spend time covering the concept as deep as they can, but they don't go all the way to journal entries. This is partly also because of the length of classes. In India, we have all classes every day, right? 5 to 6 hours for one subject a week. But in here, classes are usually 1 hour and 15 minutes and maximum twice a week. So, you know, we interact and we have the classes itself only for a limited time. So obviously, the topic coverage is also limited. The next difference is I want to talk about is the courses. At least for the BCom program in India, we have courses all mostly related to accounting in some way. I know we had some language courses and economics in the first semester, which all dropped off in the following semesters. And we usually don't get to choose what courses we want to do if we choose BCom. If we wanted to change our major, it's completely a different program. It is all set for the program, right? In US, for both bachelor's and master's, the students can choose about 40% of the courses. 60% is mandatory, but 40% they are able to choose from a list of courses that's available, which I think is a great opportunity for students to try out different subjects when they are barely 18 or 19 and can choose their mainstream later during their program. Of course, bachelor's degree in India is 3 years versus bachelor's degree in here is 4 years. So the students have 1 additional year to make mistakes or choose whatever they want to and then choose the mainstream that they finally realize that they would like to pursue. Some of the mandatory courses for my master's in accounting were advanced accounting, auditing, financial analysis, and the likes, which I enjoyed learning core subjects. At least I was able to compare how it was taught in India versus here. But what was most exciting for me were the courses that I chose as, for example, accounting research and oil and gas accounting. These were not mandatory courses. Those are the ones that I chose from a list that they had given me. So the accounting research dealt with research papers that the PhDs or the PhD candidates are publishing or are working on. And I was really thrilled to read those and learn how deep people could analyze and publish some of their studies so precisely. One of the research paper that I read back then was related to how companies use certain non-cash items, non-recurring items to meet the street's estimates of earnings per share in their earnings release. Even though I thoroughly enjoyed reading this paper, I did not think I would ever use it again until I started working as a credit analyst in my current bank, where we basically analyze companies and determine their credit worthiness based on earnings release. So I was, since I knew what were the items that the companies usually use to adjust the earnings, I was quick to identify those items from the earnings. And then I was able to adjust, like remove them from net income or final earnings to get a more reasonable number. So companies here take the street's estimates very seriously and make sure to meet estimates which help their share price following the earnings release. So what I would do is I completely eradicate these charges or income while calculating the internal rating of the company, since I knew these are non-cash and heavily influenced by the management and not really a real picture of what's going on. Based on my findings, these adjustments to earnings was then implemented across the board in my organization because, like I said, it gave us a more reasonable picture of where the company's rating should be, eradicating all management's influence. This is just an example of how I use the reading from the research paper, and that class specifically remained an introductory if I wanted to join the PhD program. I did not, obviously, but it was very interesting. One of the classes I chose was the oil and gas accounting, which was completely new to me, where they went over basic journal entries for oil and gas companies, imbalances, AFEs, ceiling test, impairments, whatnot. At that time, I did not know I will end up in oil and gas, although I should have guessed I'm in Texas. But it gave me an edge over my colleagues, even in my current job or even in Ernst & Young when I was assigned to an oil and gas client. I was able to quickly understand what the journal entry was or what the transaction was, and it definitely helped me, something that I chose out of the way from the list that they had given me. Again, it was also a very great conversation starter in my interviews, especially with companies that deal with oil and gas. One other important point that I want to make under courses is that here we have 3 or 4 advanced Excel courses for every program, which I think is absolutely necessary for this time and age, where every single person, irrespective of what profession, company, industry they choose, they will need to know these Excel skills. I still find myself looking back to the notes where complicated formulae were discussed. And the tests for these kind of courses were conducted in computer labs, just through online as well. So another course that I took was financial modeling that enabled me to learn how to develop 3 statements from the scratch and to build projections for a specific company. This again came in so handy when I had to test and develop a projection model for my group in my current job, which was recognized by my team and by my by senior management very well. So even though the financial modeling course here helped me, the strong basics that I got from India, when I say like the journal entries, and that's what helped me, help me understand how the 3 statements are connected, how to generate a complete 3 statement projections with just basic information given by the company. The next difference is how we are tested. So back in 2008, at least, most of our tested in India were written exams. Not sure if they have changed, but in my master's, paper exams were probably 10 to 15%. But every single class, we will have assignments to complete. Like we will have classes twice a week. So every single class will have an assignment, and that will be graded and taken into the final grade. And we would have at least 2 to 3 presentations for each course that we have to make in different topics, work as a team. That also counted heavily towards our final grade. I hope this method is slowly taking shape in India because it was very helpful for me personally to build relationships with classmates, to build my confidence, my research ability, presentation skills, communication skills, and subject knowledge, and finally, it allowed me to stay on top of the course material. Throughout the course, I had to consistently perform well and cannot just get away with just doing my final exams grade. I had to complete my assignments on time, do a good job on that, and then presentations also need to be good. It's just not the final exam. So I have to mention here that I was the only Indian in my program in my year. Not a lot of Indians or even international students come to US to do accounting program. But on the other hand, 95% of all the science master's program is completely is of Indians. So these group presentations facilitated me to connect with the people here, find out what kind of resources they use, how they study, what they focus on, and their priorities, their skills, how like you learn from their presentation skills. So that was like the only way that I could make friends here. Because once we are done with classes, we all disperse and go to our next classes. There's no other social situation unless I myself create. But these presentations were really helpful for me to build friendships and relationships that way. Some of the examples of the presentations that I have given during my course are that we just have to choose a company and do a complete analysis of the company, including financial, what industry they belong to, the business model, competition, projections, and corporate valuation also. Another interesting one was in my M&A course where we had to choose two different companies that I think are great candidates for a merger. And then I have to talk about their finances, business integration, and synergies. We have to actually make a combined financial statement and present it and show that this would be a great M&A opportunity because of these reasons. So it opened my eyes a little bit about corporate America. Coming from India, it was not easy to see how everything works, and so these kind of presentations and course materials definitely help me, to understand how companies work here. The next difference is career progression. I'm still so proud of the way our campus interviews were organized in Ettiraj and the number of opportunities the committee brought to us, and I'm sure it has improved 100 times more. I experienced slightly different in the US. It's very competitive, especially in a business school. We have several companies coming in during our 3 to 4 day career fairs. And even during other days, there are company presentations that happen where we just go sit in and listen to the company personnel talk to us about their company. And then I go in and I give my elevator speech and give my resume. And if they are impressed with that, they will schedule an interview. If not, there ends my quest. These interviews were more like speed interviews where we get less than 20 minutes per candidate, which was very important for us to, so basically it's very important for us to impress the interviewer within a minute or two. I remember spending more time on attending these events rather than on assignments. I had an added disadvantage of wanting visa sponsorship. So if not for these widespread career fairs, it would have been very difficult for me to get my first big job in US. Further, we had a career council and a career development department in Texas A&M. Had like 5 to 6 faculties just for the business school, I mean. And they helped us with everything related to interviews. They would help us with resume writing. They will help us with interview skills. They would actually do mock interviews with us and then give feedback on that. And then they put us in touch with alumni who we can talk to and just check how what position they are in, what kind of job responsibilities, which we can use in our interview conversations as well. So that was very helpful for me. I took full advantage of whatever resources they could offer. Next, close to my heart, I can't deny that professors in India are much more invested in students' progression. I did not get the same vibes here. I'm not sure if it is because I could not relate to them much, or I did not get their style, or because of less time we actually spend with each other. Kudos to our professors in Etherad for taking this profession seriously and giving 100% and more for the students. But it is usually the opposite when it comes to students' involvement with the institution. The alumni network here is so big, strong, and active, very much involved even now in all aspects. Like we are invited back to classes, programs to give talks, to interact with students, to recruit more so. We are always in touch with the alumni committee, and the donations are ever flowing as a result of strong sense of belonging that the students get. I know Etheraj is building a big alumni network, but I mean, I would be the first one to be extremely happy if it was more active and if we had some way of giving back in more than one ways. Moving on to my next slide. Here, I want to talk about the differences between professional course, like a normal progression for a BCom candidate in India is usually CA, they do a CA, or the other courses like the CIMA, CISA, cost accounting. And here, it's kind of similar. We have CPA, and I wanted to just highlight the high-level differences. This slide is mostly self-explanatory that has a comparison. Obviously, one would not want to think about completing CPA unless they work or plan to work in the US or for a US company. As we know, there is no restrictions in CA as long as you've given your 12th exams, but you're filtered on each level. But for CPA, it's the other way. You have to actually have at least 150 credit hours to even appear for the exams. In US, each course is about 3 credit hours, so the students here need to take approximately 50 courses, which they are able to do within 4 to 5 years. To draw a comparison, 3-year bachelor degree in India is equivalent to 124 credit hours, meaning anyone who's looking to sit for CPA exam need to do at least one more year of business studies to get this credit hours to 150. CA still remains the toughest exam with 20 papers to complete over 5 years for one attempt, I mean. But on the contrast, CPA has 4 exams, all online. Some do have simulations on subjects like auditing, attestation, business environment and concepts, financial accounting, and regulation. So we do have like at least when I gave my exams, was 20% simulation where we actually solve a complete problem online. But it's just a small part. All the other 80% is multiple choice questions. So I think 2020 they've started or they're about to start to do the exams in India, CPA exams, which I think is a great opportunity for any business school students to just get it done, and then you can use that if at all you move to the USA later. In addition to passing CPA exams, a candidate needs at least 1 year of accounting experience under a CPA to apply for license, compared to 3 years of articleship, which needs to be completed even before the final exams, right? So in India, once you're a CA, you can practice anywhere in India with the same license, but here we have to reapply for the license in each state. I mean, the exams are universal, but the experience might have a little change, or you might have to take a couple of courses extra to get the license from a different state. Now that I've talked about education and professional courses, I would like to lay out steps to developing an accounting career in the US. So during BCom, I passed the foundation and intermediate exams and had completed 6 months of articleship when I had to shift to the USA and to start from scratch. And it was a long and eventful journey. I made a lot of mistakes. And again, I felt like I had to do it all by myself without much guidance. So there was a delay. I hope you will reuse this slide with your students who are moving to the States for various reasons, just so that they have an idea of what to expect. Um, if anyone is looking to develop an accounting career, it is absolutely important to get a CPA license. If not right away, they definitely have to look into getting it in the future, because after a point, your career progression will stop if you don't have the license. You will be expected to complete those exams and get a license after a point. Um, I know a few of my colleagues and juniors were able to come to US through their employee, usually Big Four, and then give CPA exams and stay here in US or in Canada with the same company. So they are able to do that. But for us, if you don't have that option, it is important to have 150 credits, like I mentioned earlier, for which the candidates have to do maybe a master's in commerce or master's in any business course, or a PGDBA 1-year course, which is what I did before I came to the US. We will have to get our credentials evaluated. That requires mark sheets from all your universities sent directly to the evaluator, which takes at least 6 months to. Then studying for CPA is relatively easy, as we could buy CDs, online courses, books, and other resources, or can just learn by ourselves. I even heard that there are institutions in India like Becker that have started their own classes. Once ready, exams are attempted and passed. Here comes the challenging part. Having a CPA does not really mean a job is guaranteed. I passed my CPA exams back in 2010, but had to go back to school, like do my master's program in 2013, only to make use of the campus career fairs, where I could land a corporate job. There were additional visa restrictions when I was in the market, which have been relaxed now a little bit. That will be helpful for future aspirants. But the best career step for a CPA is to land a job in one of the big fours like Deloitte, EY, KPMG, or PwC, or middle market audit firms as well, where they can learn basics plus can work under a CPA to finally apply for a license. After a few years of experience in audit firms, so we can always, branch out to other professions like internal audit, fraud detection, IT audit, corporate accounting, treasury, financial management, planning, forecasting, or work for a credit rating agency. Of course, banking, like investment banking, private equities, corporate banking, just like me. There are several options for a qualified accountant in here, especially for those with no visa restrictions. I was recruited by EY after several campus interviews, on-site interviews, social sessions as an audit staff in 2015, and worked on an oil and gas client, E&P client. I enjoyed my time there, especially with a great team of youngsters, and finally able to apply my core subject knowledge. But I knew that was not going to be my permanent job, given the hours and the type of work. During busy seasons, we would ring in 90-hour work weeks for minimum 6 weeks, which was not sustainable with families. Further, I was more interested in where I could use my accounting knowledge in a more productive way for something forward-looking, versus auditing and reviews are all backward-looking, right? And I thought about branching out, which is when I eventually got this banking opportunity as a credit analyst in the oil and gas group, and then I just took it right away. I have been enjoying this job since I get to see so many companies, subsectors, and can see a full connection with the of the oil and gas industry, and have been thoroughly enjoying the ups and downs that's going on. And 2020 seems to be the best time to learn in oil and gas. Next, I have a brief overview of the oil and gas industry. So there are four high-level subsectors: exploration and production sector that focuses on finding, researching, drilling, production, and recovery of crude from underground. Exploration methods have evolved, still evolving day by day, and a big boom began due to the US oil shale when the US companies discovered economical methods to extract crude from shale rocks, apart from other major basins that they already had. Once the crude is taken out, it's transferred and stored using pipelines, tanks, trucks, ships, which is where midstream companies come in. They're usually fee-based, and most big ones have acreage dedication from E&Ps, so they have a stable growth. But their growth is also dependent on how much E&P companies are willing to spend. Lately, there have been heavy developments of midstream companies in Permian Basin, one of the most important basins that's spread over Texas and Louisiana. Midstream companies, they carry the crude to the refiners or the downstream companies where the separation of the petroleum products happen. It is a mind-blowing process. I was so fortunate to have visited one of the biggest refineries in Houston. It took us just 4 hours to go around the refinery with all those big machinery in a vehicle, and a short inspection of their control room that had more than 25,000 computers. Apparently, it's all automated. What chemical goes in on which second is automated. There are just people who are just making sure that goes through. That's all the control room was said to be. The next sector is that if they OFS, which is oil field services, they provide equipment for offshore, onshore drilling, build pipelines, build refiners, etc. Every day is new, and every day is a learning for us, those in this sector. I read public reports, sometimes private reports, and provide an internal rating, like I said, for each company based on which we decide if we can lend or not. If yes, how much exposure is acceptable. I get to deep dive into financials, business, industry, peers, customers, the structure of their loan, RCF or the term loans, projections, of course, the loan repayment ability, the collateral strength if they have such a collateral. And also, we also compare our rating with the external rating comparison with, for example, Moody's or S&P. So with all this information, we make a final opinion of the company based on which our bank decides the relationship with that company. I manage a portfolio of 30 names from different sectors, and it's been amazing how they're all the same, but at the same time have their unique competitive advantage. I wanted to share something that happened in oil and gas market that has never happened before, that stunned the whole world, and the reasons behind that. I hope you find it interesting too. So on April 20th, 2020, WTI, Western Texas Intermediate oil price, the benchmark price went negative. Really to absurd levels, not $3 or $2 or $1, it went to negative $37 per barrel. Usually it trends in line with the oil prices, which is also low currently, but it went as high as $99 in 2009. So just to give you a comparison, it was so dramatic that I had several people from, even friends from India reaching out to me with condolences and sorrows and questions concerning, oh my gosh, what's happening? WTI is negative. While many people may see this and think that overall price of the oil is negative, there's an inside nuance that they missed. That was actually the future contract price. The future contracts are tied to a specific delivery date. So toward the end of the contract's expiration date, the price typically converges with the physical price of oil, as the final buyers of these contracts are entities like refineries or airlines that are going to take actual delivery. Future contracts ultimately are contracts for physical delivery of the underlying commodity. While some people in the market speculate on these contracts, others are buying and selling because they have use for the commodity itself. So near the contract expiration, traders just start buying the next month's future contract. Those who stay in the position to the final day are typically buying the physical commodity, such as a refiner, like I mentioned. So the WTI that fell 100% on April 20 was for May, which was set to expire the right next day, April 21. So with all this lockdown, the pandemic, coronavirus pandemic, and demand loss resulting from that, what that has resulted was the storage tanks are filling up, pipes are filling up, there is no demand for oil. So nobody wanted to take that oil for the contract that was expiring the next day. So that's why it turned negative. What happened on that day was not in relation with the physical barrels, but had more to do with the mechanics of future contracts and how they transition from month to month than a complete mega meltdown in physical barrels. I would like to end the presentation with something to take away. I am going to point out a few of the most valuable traits, skills that I think are important in order to build a successful career and manage a very demanding life as a woman altogether. First one is grit, resistance, persistence. There are lots of different words, but can't tell you how important this is. Since the day I came to US, I have gotten rejections from more than 100 employers, more than 5-6 universities, several, even like let's say I will send an email to one of the persons from LinkedIn, just ask them, can I give you a quick call? And even there, I would get a rejection for even that. So it would have been very easy for me to quit. And in fact, several times I have thought about quitting, but will quickly rebound to be ready to fail again. Some people are fortunate enough to have a very linear career progression. Some of us are not. And in those times, resilience will keep us focused on our end goal. Second one is conscientious. It is bizarre how many times usually this word is mentioned in my reviews. Being dutiful, basically completing the responsibilities that you have been provided. I did not even think or know that that was an advantage, as we are all wired to do that, wired to do what we are hired to do, right? Take accountability, take full responsibility, and provide the deliverables with highest quality and in timely manner. Apparently, it's considered very valuable in US since there are people who don't take their jobs seriously and end up being mediocre employees. Communication skills, of course, I mean, if not for anything else, to develop our communication skills is going to give us confidence and help us continue to progress towards our career plan. We need to be open to learn and do any kind of job and have the ability to quickly adapt to new environment. After several rejections, I decided to just go and volunteer, meaning work without pay. With a CPA practitioner, I have worked with an immigration law firm. I've volunteered in a library, in a school, a lot of things with absolutely zero pay. Even though I did not gain any monetary benefits, I had several pointers to take for my future jobs and so much content to talk during interviews. Holding our uniqueness is all good, but what employers seek for is to be able to quickly able to change and adapt to current situations. Attention to details and at the same time ability to develop big picture. We are usually good at paying attention to details with our strong basics and heavily competitive education system in India, but developing a big picture can only come when we expand our knowledge beyond our responsibilities and have an eagle view, like not just see what I'm responsible for, but to see what the other person is responsible for, what my boss is responsible for. Or even in a company, just not focus on what section we are doing, but a full eagle view helps us draw a big picture. Next one, we've already talked about strong Excel skills and solid interview skills. Beyond everything, we have to definitely work on developing strong interview skills. It did not matter how much marks I got in school, college, CPA, but what mattered was how I'm projecting myself to the interviewers and teams. More often than not, us Indians fail to make an impression during an interview, but actually are much more skillful than the others. We have been taught not to self-praise, not to boast, be modest, etc., which is all great except for when we are interviewing. One rule is that the interviewer has no way of knowing how good you are unless you tell them. So it's absolutely important. Last but not the least, every person should have a passion beyond their job. Could be related to their field, like reading accounting research papers or teaching young generation what passing on the legacy, what you have succeeded in, completely unrelated, art, literature, sports, games, anything. This helps in keeping us sane and grounded and keeps us in touch with who we really are and helps us be lively. Um, we should have life beyond our jobs so that we don't feel empty the moment we leave office. Further, that's also a great interview content and a conversation starter. And US is so big about hiring someone that fits the company's culture. They keep saying this in every interview, and usually it somehow turns into a person having multitasking abilities, having a passion on their side. So all that is really good for good content for interview as well. That brings to the end of my prepared presentation. Opening for any questions now. Feel free to ask any question, could be related to the prepared content or anything else. If I don't know the answer, I will get back to you. Over to you, Hari.
Yeah, thank you, Vidya. So we have a question on the panel here. So firstly, Dr. SD Fatima Banu wants to thank you for the wonderful presentation.
Thank you.
Okay. And the question that she has is, how can you manage the difference while you enter, that is enter US, so that UG, PG students or research scholar get benefits? And the second part is, how can you tell how could you apply for postdoctoral research program in Western country? How do you apply for a postdoctoral research program?
Okay, so let me make this clear. So the question is, how do I manage the differences between Indian and master's education when I started, I guess, right?
Right.
Okay, cool. It was not easy. Initially, when other students were just putting in 2 or 3 hours for an assignment, I would not even be sure what format they want in. So I would spend more hours. Initially, the learning curve was steep. At the same time, I had to spend more hours on initial assignments. I would go meet the professors in person and talk to them. And I was sounding foolish most of the times because I didn't know the answer to even simplest. How do I go to this website to upload my assignment? That was itself a little bit hard for me. And like I said, there were no other Indians where I could just reach out and ask for questions. So it would all be my professors. Luckily, they had like meeting times every single day. And they helped me a lot in the transition. And like I said, the assignment times, I still remember I used to sit through nights and complete, and I could see that the other students were not putting in that many hours. But eventually that also narrowed down once I realized what the professors were looking for and how the papers are graded. But I loved the learning curve, and that also has helped me realize how quickly you can learn something. And the second part of the question was, how do you apply for postdoc research? To be honest, I do not know the answer to that question. What I've always thought was you need to have a master's degree here to usually in the last semester of the master's like I mentioned, there's a accounting research course or a research course that they introduce to, and then if you do really well and if you're interested, you go and talk to your professor, and then he sets you up with topics, or he helps you find research gaps, and then people go from there. But I'm not sure if there are other ways. I can definitely follow up with my colleagues who have done that, who have done PhD here in accounting, and I can get back to you on that.
Great. So the next question is from Sumati. The question goes this way: what kind of preparation did you undertake to confidently face your faculty in the class during your masters?
Okay. Preparation, to be honest, I did not do any preparation. I have been, so one thing I've never been shy of, and I'm sure a lot of professors can vouch for it, is that I'm not shy of speaking up. I usually am the first one to raise my hand, even though if the answer could be completely wrong, completely off, but I'm usually the first one to raise my hand and answer. That way definitely continued here. I did the same thing here. One other thing I did was like I said, I would prepare extra hard. Like when they give me a topic, there would be some background information that the other students have already gone through in their bachelor's program. So I would go through that as well before I read my master's topic that was given. And then when I face my professor in the class, it would be slightly easier. There are times when I've been completely made a fool of myself in class, but I have never cared about it. And the professors have been usually supportive. They will either call me on the side and tell me that that's great, but you need to work on this, or they just brush it off. But usually I've never been scared of facing professors, and no one should be, because it's not a scare, like it's just like the classrooms are very regular, just like in India, just that we have PowerPoint presentations and screens, whatnot. And the professor sets the class that every single person has to talk, has to speak to get points. So it was easy for me to just raise my hand and ask any question.
Okay. Well, the next question is from Shruti. So the question goes this way: you did mention about financial modeling. So Shruti wants to know whether a company will look into that aspect when they hire a student, the knowledge of financial modeling.
Yes, that is a very important skill to develop, because, like I said, I can say that 40% of my current job is to build models for each company. So you can imagine 30 companies. I have to build 5-year projections using our company's assumptions, and also figure out what their company has assumed, and make a comparison and say which is more reasonable, and how the company would do leverage wise, liquidity wise. It's very important, especially in the recent times. Like we have because of COVID, what we are doing is we are doing a portfolio level stress testing, literally bringing the prices back to $15 oil, and then the gas all the way to $1.20, and then doing a financial model, trying to see where this company would be at the end of 2020 with this really low prices. And that's how we decide what we need to do, if we need to get out of the exposure from this company, or if we can continue to support them, or if we need to add additional covenants. So it's, at least in my job, in any banking job, in any credit rating job, financial modeling is absolutely important. That's a great skill. There are outside private courses here in US, at least, to actually completely learn how to develop models and work on them. I'm not sure if we have those in India, but that would be a great on the side additional learning course.
Right, thank you. So this question may take you back to your days in college. So the question goes this way: what is that you learned from your days at Ethiraj that helped you here, the place you're in now?
Oh my God, I have to make another presentation for that. Like I said, It's been an amazing experience in Etheraj. People who know me I can't really say how well I did in my courses, but overall, it was a great experience. The friends that I gained, the love that I got from professors, and my experience as being the president of the union, like Annapurnima mentioned earlier, was just I still say that 2007 2008 is the best year in my life. There were so many things I could have done differently now that I think of it, but to give those kind of opportunities for young students like that and to expose you to so many different things, Ethraj has been the best experience for me ever. Even during interviews, even during our campus interviews, I'm still mind blown about how many different companies came, how much we are exposed to, and all my friends would vouch for the same. Like all of them, almost all of them got a job through those, and they they were able to set their careers up. And we are still friends. We still have a group. We still chat. We are still friends, and we have a strong foundation. I'm sure we will be friends forever. And all this is happening only because of Etheraj. So a big thanks to all of you.
Great. So the next question is about how US CPA is valid for India and other countries. So what is the scope? Is what the question is?
I think in India it is useful if you are in those big four companies which have their branches in US as well, like Deloitte, KPMG, EY, PwC. So when I was in EY, I had a team in India that used to work on our audit papers, audit sheets, and they were eventually promoted. They were eventually recognized, and they were given more importance if they had a CPA. So I would say go for CPA exams. Take it even right after BCom. Once you meet the educational requirements, take the CPA exams. For people who do CA, CPA will be a piece of cake, really. So take them, and once you join these big four firms, you will have an added advantage even before joining those. And once those team members can, they have their on-site opportunities too. So having a CPA will help them easily move to US if that's one of their career progression plans.
Great. So in the interest of time, we'll take one last question. So this question, relates to work-life balance. So the question goes this way: how did you manage, the family and your kids during the study? I mean, during your studies in the US?
Okay, so I went back to school in 2013 and had my daughter in 2014. This course itself is not taxing at all. Like once you get the process, how it works, how do you do your assignments, how do you submit them, that was my problematic stuff. But like I said, because we have strong foundation skills from India, the course material was not taxing. In fact, I planned my first child just so that I would have her right in between my studies so that I can start my job when she's a year old. So that was kind of planned. So it's very simple compared to India to complete courses here. Like I said, it's only 3 hours, maximum 3 hours of classes per subject, and then 3 more hours of work that you need to do in a week. So it's very manageable. It was not as taxing as India at all. And of course, the infrastructure is much better here. You don't have to commute 3 hours. Those kind of additional problems are not here. So I wouldn't say the work-life balance was affected at that time. But now, or even in EY, it was challenging. Like I said, 90-hour work weeks. And now, because I have my kids at home, mornings we don't do anything. I just take care of the kids. I work in the nights, so usually this is the time I usually work, right, starting from 10 p.m. until 4 or 5 a.m. and then sleep here and there. So now it's been challenging, but back then doing my master's was not challenging.
Great. I would request Kritika ma'am to take over the presentation.
Yes. Good afternoon to one and all. On behalf of the PG and Research Department of Commerce, Ethiraj College for Women, I would like to take this opportunity to express my gratitude to our alumna, Mrs. Vidya Madhubala Rajakrishnan, for giving an insight on US versus India from an accountant's view. The session was very interesting and informative and helped us to gain knowledge on difference and similarities between the educational programs like CA and CPA and how to develop an accounting career in the US. I once again thank you, ma'am, for your time and guidance. I thank all the participants for joining us and I request you all to join us from 2 to 3 tomorrow for a session on Facebook linked Hello YouTube Where's My Money by Mr. G.D. Dharanidharan, who is a digital lifestyle entrepreneur and a director and founder of Social Legal. The link for the same will be shared in the WhatsApp group shortly. Thank you.
Thank you so much, one and all, for the great opportunity. Thank you.
Bye.